Moshi Monsters is a virtual world I've talked a lot about on my channel, to the point where people know me either as the Strangeglove person or the Strangeglove Kid OC person. But if you're new here and never played the game, let me give you a quick overview before we jump into things. Moshi Monsters was an online Flash virtual world that ran from 2008 to 2019. In it, you would adopt a pet monster out of 6 available species and feed and take care of it, while also trying to collect moshlings, pets, for your monster. Like many virtual worlds at the time, it had a mission system where you could be a super Moshi and save the Moshi world from the villainous Clonk, the criminal league of naughty critters. The character designs were where the game shined, not so much the gameplay, although the minigames were fun. Moshi Monsters also had a lot of fun video content, like music videos, the Moshi TV show, which is what we're talking about today, and in 2013, they released a Moshi Monsters movie, which I will hopefully be talking about more in an upcoming video. The game was British, so if you're watching this and you're American and confused, that's okay. Please stick around. Please. I'm American myself, but I'm a huge Moshi fan, if you couldn't tell by my everything about my channel. But if you're British and you don't remember there being a Moshi TV show, that's because it was an online-only web series that functioned as a news show for the game, where they'd show off new music videos, give away codes, and be silly around their offices. Club Penguin also had a weekly news show I plan on talking about in the future on my channel. But Moshi's was very different compared to Club Penguin's, and I feel they treated their audiences very differently. The Moshi TV show had 9 episodes in total, beginning in November of 2012 and ending in December of 2012, with 1 episode every week. Episodes were posted on both the Moshi Monsters YouTube channel and the Moshi Monsters news website, The Daily Growl. The show was hosted by a man named Simon Hill, who was a producer, product manager, and developer for Moshi Monsters. He looks like Neil Cicierega, or any other brown-haired skinny white guy with glasses. Along with him, a cast of both Moshi and human characters would appear on the show, such as Rory Scrawl, Will, Zach Binspin, and Krissa? The show had different segments, including Your Letters, which featured letters and fan art sent in by Moshi fans, My Show, where Rory Scrawl, a character from the game, in puppet form, would show videos sent in by fans, and Code Generator, where Simon used a gumball machine to generate a code that viewers of the show could redeem in-game. Each episode is a different length, the shortest being 6 minutes and the longest being 13 minutes. And with all that out of the way, let's get started with Episode 1. Episode 1, November 4th, 2012. Episode 1 starts off with introducing us to Simon, our host, who is asleep on the job. Off-screen, people shout at him to wake up, and he wakes up. He starts discussing what's going to be on this week's episode, acting like the segments on the show are already established, even though this is just the first episode. The moshling Iggy shows up and starts talking in monster language to Simon. And eventually Simon starts pulling Christmas lights, or, well, this is Moshi Monsters, Twistmas lights, out of Iggy's mouth. Player shoutouts roll across the bottom of the screen, with messages from the fans about how they're excited about this TV show. They move on to the next segment, a clip from the Blingo music video that was released on August 20th, 2012, 3 months before this episode. Yet they claim it's a new video. Next up is a clip of 2 kids dancing to the Moshi Monsters song, Welcome to Jollywood, which has dance moves as part of the lyrics. Head to the left and head to the right. Arms akimbo, legs real tight. Fingers up and twitch your neck. Judder sideways, hit the deck. 1 step here, 1 step there. Shake your hips and brush your hair. Simon bangs his gong because he thinks these kids did a really good job dancing, which is sweet. He invites the kids watching at home to send in their Moshi videos to possibly be shown on future episodes of the Moshi TV show. Simon is about to do a lore reveal on why he runs the Moshi TV show when he gets a phone call. And as it turns out, it's time for Code Generator. How Code Generator works is that there's a gumball machine and each gumball's color is worth a different amount of in-game Moshi currency called rocks. The gumball this episode is purple, which is 300 rocks, and the code is all capitals, space trifle. You would expect with something called code generator, the code would be a bunch of random letters and numbers, but Moshi was always good about having their codes be actual words. Simon does a recap of the episode so far, before the band Sonic Boom 6 does a performance of their song For the Kids of the Multiculture to end the episode. This is the shortest episode, so it can only get better from here. Episode 2, November 10th, Episode 2 starts off with Simon hiding his face behind a plush of one of the game's playable monsters, Diavolo. When the plushie is removed by someone, it is revealed that Simon is wearing a black cowboy hat and a red wig. After the usual episode overview, like in the last episode, this episode starts off with a segment where Simon reads letters sent in by Moshi fans. The letter this episode asks Simon when he's gonna get a haircut and how the weather is, to which Simon responds that he never sees the weather because he's in the dungeon and he never gets to see the sky. As an animator, I understand this. He moves from fan letters to fan art, with fan art of characters from the game being drawn by fans. My favorite this episode is this one of pony moshlings in a real horse stable with real horses. Next up is Ask Zach, a segment where fans get to ask Zach Binspin, a Moshi Monsters in-game pop star, or Gooper star, questions. In this segment, Zach is a puppet. Upon seeing this Zach Binspin puppet, I yelled, "Oh no, no," because I've seen it before and talked about how much I hated it in my video about virtual world in real life events. I do not like how this puppet looks. A fan asks Zach where he's been, and Zach responds that he's been hanging out with Simon Growl, who is Moshi's version of Simon Cowell. I do not like Simon Growl. Then the fan asks Zach what his favorite record is, and yes, this was like 12 years ago, but unless it's a British thing, wouldn't you say CDs? Records only started to regain popularity again in like maybe 2018 or 2019? Maybe it's a British thing though, and I'm a stupid American. Anyways, Zach says his favorite is Music Rocks, which is Moshi's own music album. Back to Simon, our host. He's talking on the phone when his studio is taken over by Clonk, the villains of Moshi Monsters. Dr. Strangelove's evil laugh and theme song play, and Simon freaks out. And then it's over, and Simon goes back to his phone call. You know how that fan at the beginning of the episode asks when Simon is gonna get a haircut? Yeah, the next segment cuts to himself cutting his own hair, so I guess he listened to the kid. And now, it's time for the weekly code generator. He's being romantic to the code generator. This week's gumball is clearly orange, but he claims it's yellow because the orange gumball means 10,000 rocks, while yellow is only 200 rocks. The code this week is radish. Transition to the next segment, which is called My Show, where a woman named Megan introduces that we'll be watching videos sent in by Moshi fans. There's a kid being a weatherman, and there's these two kids who made up a pretty banger song about Moshi Monsters. I'm gonna play a clip because I believe this is a banger.
Moshi Monsters,
Check out
Moshi
those
Monsters,
hats! Come out to play.
the real monsters.
Once again, they end the show with a musical guest. This time, it's Beatty Wolf. Episode 3, November 17th, 2012. This episode starts off with Simon talking to a mascot costume of Furry, one of the playable monsters in the game, before he's called back to the studio to start the show. This episode starts off once again like episode 2 with the Your Letters segment, featuring letters and fan art created by Moshi fans. For this week's letter, we have a fan saying that they're going on holiday soon and that their games won't keep them occupied. They ask Simon to send them a copy of Moshi Monsters Theme Park for the 3DS. Simon says no, but then he says he was only joking and he'll send them one. How sweet. And for this week's fan art, he kinda skips through it. But he does say he's gonna put up this drawing of Audie on his toilet. It's time for the new Coco Loco video. Unlike the Blingo video from episode 1, this is actually a brand new Moshi music video that released during this episode. While the full video isn't shown here, it was later uploaded to the Moshi Monsters YouTube channel on November 22nd, 2012. Next up, we have my show with Megan. There's a kid dancing to the I Heart Moshling song, and a kid using a video editor to make them look like various playable Moshi Monsters characters. A new segment is introduced this episode that will be in future episodes called the Yes-No game. In this game, you can't say yes or no, or you get slimed. They bring out this kid named Seth, and he freezes up and gets slimed. But he wins a copy of Music Rocks. Code generator time! This week's gumball is green, which equals 500 rocks. The code this week is Goblin. This week's musical guest is the Blackout, performing their song Start the Party. I love how music-focused Moshi is, not just sharing their own music, but bands of all genres. Episode 4, November 24th, 2012. This episode once again starts out with a letters segment, where a fan asks if Katsuma, one of the playable monster characters in the game, is a boy or a girl. Simon pulls up a video of a Katsuma mascot suit hanging out around the Moshi offices that doesn't really tell us anything. Oh god, they brought back the Zach Binspin puppet. No. Simon asks Zach a few questions, like where he's been and if he has any words for his fans, and what Zach is working on next. I think it's important to mention here that he mentions his biography book vaguely in this section, by mentioning that he's been hanging out with Ruby Scribbles, who is the in-universe writer of all the biography books. The book came out in March of 2013. They play a snippet of Zach's new song, which at the time of this episode's release is unnamed. The song ended up being called Head Over Heels, and had a music video released in September 2013. It's time for my show with Megan. This week's videos are two kids dressed as Dr. Strangelove and Sweet Tooth, two of the villains of Moshi Monsters, singing a song they made up about the duo. The other video is some kids doing gymnastics to I Heart Moshlings, a song used in a previous My Show clip. We go back to Simon, who's rambling when suddenly the lights go out. He keeps rambling, but guess who's coming around the corner? It's Dr. Strangeglove. He taps Simon's shoulder, but Simon is too busy rambling to care. Dude, if Strangeglove was behind me, I would kiss him. Have I mentioned my huge crush on Dr. Strangeglove in this video yet? Don't worry about it. Finally, Simon notices Strangeglove and freaks out. Coward. And then Strangeglove just leaves. Coward. In Simon's own words, it's time for Krissa! And her Monstar Style segment. Krissa loves being quirky and lol random. It's cringe, but in a fun way. Krissa Sparkles asks a question of the week for the fans to respond to on the Moshi forums. And this week's question is, what is the craziest toy you own? Something code generator. This week's gumball is purple, same as it was in episode 1. And just like in episode 1, it's 300 rocks. The code is Moose. Ending this episode is the musical guest, Portia Khan, singing her song, Burning Little Holes. Episode 5 with Tonight Alive, December 1st, 2012. Starting off with letters once again, Simon has a letter from America, and he butchers the national anthem. But me too, Simon. I've related to Simon more than I thought I would throughout this as a neurodivergent person. There's just been so many moments where I've gone, yeah, I get it, Simon. Yeah, I do that too, Simon. He's meant to be silly for the kids, but he's just relatable to me. The letter from America isn't a letter at all. It's a drawing that he puts up on the wall behind him. While he's putting that up, he shows off other fan art he's been sent in. My favorite of this batch is this Jollywood drawing by Party Dude 20005044. Simon tries to draw himself. You cannot tell me that's not Neil Cicierega. That's any skinny white guy with brown hair and glasses. That's Wheatley in Portal 2, the unauthorized musical. He does this to introduce a new segment, The Art Show with Will. In this episode, the art show is a tutorial on how to draw Moshi eyes, which if you know me, you know I do not need a tutorial on. I've drawn so many Moshi eyes. Still, the way Moshi's character's eyes look is very unique to Moshi Monsters, and I get why they do their first art show on this. Simon pulls a bowl of candy out and I'm like, where's this going? The lights dim, and it's another Clonk attack like in the last episode, although instead of Strangeglove, it's the candy-themed villain Sweet Tooth. Simon starts freaking out even though nothing's really happening besides Sweet Tooth's theme playing in the background. Then it all stops abruptly, the lights come back on, and he claims he wasn't scared at all. Me too, Simon. Me too. Chrissa's back, and she gives some tips on how to make your in-game monster look like a hip-hop star. Time for the fan-submitted videos for this episode. They only show one video this time, but it's a good one. It's a stop-motion animated story told through Moshling toys. Then it's time for Code Generator. This week's gumball is yellow, which is 200 rocks. Except, just like last time, the gumball is actually orange. Simon just doesn't want to give the viewer 10,000 rocks. The code is Fairy Cake. This week's live music, like the episode title states, is from the band Tonight Alive with their song Starlight. Episode 6 with Zach Binspin, December 7th, 2012. Oh no, they're bringing back the Zach Binspin puppet. No! The first segment of this episode is once again the Your Letters segment. This episode's letter is from a fan who has a ton of Moshi merch and drew an Iggy on the letter. Then they play the Iggy Chomp music video, which was originally released in August of 2012, so it was still pretty recent at the time. Next is Will's art show segment, where he teaches the viewer how to make a quote-unquote poppet decoration. Poppet, for those who didn't play Moshi, is one of the playable monster characters. The decoration is some poppet drawings hung up with a string. Then there's a cutscene from one of the Super Moshi missions from the game that plays, which I wouldn't find unusual because sometimes they do play cutscene type stuff to transition from one segment to another. But this time, when the cutscene ends, we see Simon washing dishes with a yellow glove on his hand, and the glove starts attacking him as Dr. Strangelove's evil laugh plays. He takes the glove off and stomps on it. Then he looks at the camera and says,
Phew.
Normal reaction to a normal thing. I mean, that happened to me last week and I'm fine. They play the yes-no game this episode, and while the kid messes up because, of course he does, he wins a copy of Moshling Theme Park. The My Show segment is next, and luckily for me, they've moved on from showing the fans' faces to just showing stop-motion videos, so I don't have to spend time trying to blur or avoid showing any clips. I also think the stop-motion stuff is a lot more creative than just dancing videos, but that's probably because I'm an animator and have done stop-motion. You know what time it is? Code Generator time. This episode's gumball is green, which means 500 rocks. The code is Gloop. Oh god, it's time for the Zach Binspin puppet. I hate this thing. So yeah, they puppet this thing around for the length of an entire song, and he lunges at the camera, and I hate it so much. Get this thing off my screen. Get it out of here. Episode 7 with Rory Scrawl, December 14th, 2012. You know how these things start by now. It's time for the Your Letters segment. Simon can't find the letters, so a second Simon comes to read the letter. This episode's letter comes from a fan who is a twin and talks about being a twin. So the double Simons thing kind of makes sense. The twin also wants to work at Moshi someday. Me too, kid. Me too. This episode also has a gallery segment. My favorite drawing this episode is this picnic drawing. It's so simple, but so cute. This episode introduces a new character, sort of. There's a Moshi Monsters character named Rory Scrawl, who I mentioned previously at some point. Well, they made a puppet of him, and he's taking over the My Show segment. I like this puppet a lot more than the Zach Binspin one. He's used in a lot of other Moshi media past the Moshi TV show. He's also voiced by the same guy throughout all Moshi media, from this to the movie. which I think is nice. The first video is some kid singing the Zach Binspin song, My Hair's Too Long, while wearing a Zach Binspin mask. But my favorite video in this one is this Moshling and Glump dance-off, because it's like what came before Gacha Life singing battles. Before there was Gacha Life, there were toy videos. We get a small clip of one of the Moshi mascot suits after this, out in the streets of London, buying Twistmas gifts. Poppet actually got Simon a gift, a Poppet backpack, and inside the backpack is a photo of Simon. He has a gift for Poppet as well, a picture of her. Then they show a preview of a new Moshi music video for a new song called Uptown Fifi. The full video wouldn't be released until February 2013, 2 months later. I love when virtual world news shows would show new content. It's why I love the spoiler alert so much, but that's for another time. And it's time for Code Generator. This episode's gumball is blue, which is worth 100 rocks. The code is Wince Pie. This episode ends with Moshi Monsters staff members singing the song Moshi Twistmas instead of having an actual band sing something. Episode 8, The Twistmas Special, December 21st, 2012. It's Twistmas! Or at least, almost Twistmas. I'm Jewish, and I always wondered what Moshi Hanukkah would be. Hanukkah? Like Hanukkah, claw, Hanukkah. I actually like the sound of that, haha. Anyways, this is their special Twistmas themed episode. Santa Claus, probably Simon, comes on screen and puts down a bag where Simon usually sits, and Simon comes out of the bag. No letters this time, they go straight into the gallery for some Twistmas-y fan art. My favorite this episode is this one of Sledge Street. As someone who's redrawn all of Sledge Street digitally, seeing it this well redone on paper is really good. We get kind of a dreamy sequence of Poppet and Diavolo as mascot suits, decorating a Twistmas tree. Next is my show with Rory Scrawl. There's something wrong with the green screen behind Rory. We're all seeing this, right? Anyways, the videos this week are all of kids dancing to the Moshi Twistmas song from the last episode. There's also a video of a cat. That's my favorite. I love cats. They do the yes-no game this episode, but instead of playing it with a fan, they play it with the Iggy puppet that acts as Simon's co-host. You would think that because this puppet can't speak and can just make moshling noises, it can't say yes or no, so it can't lose the game, right? Wrong. It nods its head and gets slimed. Iggy wins nothing. I hope they can wash the slime out of that puppet. Art show with Will this week. Oh god, that Diavolo puppet is horrifying. Get that thing off screen. Why does it look like that? You can see where they green screen the legs out. Oh no. Ha ha ha. Anyways, this week's art show segment shows you how to make your own paper Twistmas tree using a template Moshi Monsters posted on their website. You just color, cut, and glue it together, and there you have it, a Twistmas tree. I remember doing this one as a kid. Then Mr. Moshi shows up. For context, Mr. Moshi is Michael Acton Smith, the creator of Moshi Monsters. He talks about how the year has been for Moshi Monsters, with Season 2 of the Super Moshi missions being released that year. The big announcement he's here for, there's gonna be a Moshi Monsters movie. Now, I'm making this video 12 years after these episodes were uploaded, so I can say now, we do have a Moshi Monsters movie. It's my favorite movie of all time, but I feel like that's a topic for a future video. Too much to say about it, and this is a video about the Moshi TV show. We get another Moshi mascot suit clip of Poppet ice skating. She's so cute. It's time for a very Twistmas-y code generator. The only problem is the code generation machine is blocked by a Twistmas tree. But Simon calls Iggy, who still has the slime on him from earlier, to help him generate something, and Iggy spits out a golden Twistmas tree bauble. This ball gives you a Moshi Twistmas banner, and the code is Twistmas time. This week's ending performance is by the Hugh Middleton Choir, singing We Wish You a Merry Christmas, but instead of Merry Christmas, it's Merry Twistmas. Episode 9, Happy Goo Year, December 28th, 2012. Episode 9, the finale. Man, I can't believe it's already over, just like that. In all the other episodes, at the start of the episode, Simon is doing something else and someone has to call him over to the Moshi TV show set, but in this one, he's actually there on time, so you know something is off. Mr. Moshi calls him on the phone and says something about a quest? So Simon runs down to see Mr. Moshi, who hands him a piece of paper. Simon bows and heads back to the Moshi TV show set. I love the way Simon runs. I do that too sometimes. One time, one of my roommates saw me running like that and called it a gay little run. Okay, it wasn't exactly what Simon was doing, but silly ways of moving my body when I'm happy and have energy are fun. The quest means that Simon has to stop doing the Moshi TV show, and he asks Iggy to help him pack his stuff. Iggy has something in his mouth. It's the yellow glove from episode 6. Dr. Strangelove's song starts playing in the background as Simon has a realistic depiction of a panic attack. Nah, just kidding. They play clips of all the time Strangelove and Sweet Tooth showed up on the show. Then they start packing for real, starting with Simon's gong, and they play a couple clips of him banging the gong, and they play clips of Simon dancing around the Moshi TV set, and clips of musical guests they've had on the show. Simon packs his Bungo Colada, a drink from the game, and they show the music video for Coco Loco, which first premiered on the Moshi TV show before it was posted online. Then there's Simon's Clapper, which was used during the My Show segment, so they show some clips sent in by fans that were used in previous episodes. Next, he packs his skateboard, which doesn't lead to any clips being shown, but it is a cool skateboard. He wants to pack the code generator, but it's a bit too big, so he says the magic words, Kabongo Gwazongo. The code generator shrinks down to a size that will fit in Simon's backpack. Simon pours slime, specifically the slime from the Yes No game, into the backpack next, so Yes No game clips play. Simon wants to take Iggy on the quest, but Iggy doesn't want to come. Simon says too bad and puts Iggy in the backpack anyways. And that's it. Show's over. Or not. There's a breaking news segment from Rory Scroll at the end of the episode. The news segment was that Mr. Moshi sent Simon on a mission, and we never find out what that mission was. Some segments from the Moshi TV show continued after the show ended, with Rory Scroll taking over. The gallery and My Show, as well as Rory doing interviews with Mr. Moshi. As much as I like Simon, I think Rory hosting the show from the start could have been interesting as well. But with what they wanted to do with the show, having Simon be the host worked. As for there being a real Moshi Monsters show, there was allegedly going to be one released after the movie, but I'll talk more about that in my video on the movie itself, so stay tuned. Simon does show up again in other Moshi media, specifically for a video released on May 3rd, 2013 for Moshi Monsters' 5th birthday. This video was filmed at a party celebrating the game's anniversary, and everyone at the party was very, very clearly drunk, including, probably, Simon himself. My friends and I watched this video together and we counted at least 11 people are holding a glass of alcohol. The party is a costume party, and most of the attendees are dressed up as Moshlings, but Simon is dressed as Rory Scroll and says the iconic line, at least to some of my friends and I.
Tonight, Michael, I've come as Rory Scroll.
It's the pause that makes it so funny. The whole video is just so funny. Why would Moshi upload a video of their employees being clearly drunk at a party? 11 of them are holding alcohol. This is a kid's game. Although it's not like Moshi didn't hint at one of their characters being an alcoholic, so maybe that's just a them problem. If you made it this far in the video and you were paying attention, put all 8 codes from the code generator in a comment for a Moshi fun fact. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all the things. I'm trying to get to 40,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so every sub really means a lot. I have more videos like this in the works as well as animatics, so stick around for that!